Hi everybody, Adam here. So today I wanted to talk about the topic of why I identify as a himbo. And I was actually interviewed for the Himbo Chef series a little while back for a small publication. And I was asked why I had chosen to identify as a himbo. What was it that made me decide that that was going to be the namesake for Himbo Chef and then this channel in general. It was actually the first time I had really thought very hard about it. It had kind of been a joke at first, but the more that I thought about it, the more that I realized that it was not just a joke. It was something that was very serious to me and something that I do very seriously identify with. So today I wanted to talk about that, talk about why I identify as a himbo, and maybe give a little bit of a perspective as to why I think that the whole world, everybody should be a little bit more of a himbo. As always, do not hesitate to smash that like button, help level up the channel, and of course help bless all countries around the world with just a little bit more himbofication. I'm also always generally taking on new online fitness coaching clients, so if you're interested, you can reach out via the link below and I will be in touch. So I was kind of a terrible person when I was younger. This is a fact about me. As a kid, as a teenager, I went through a really rough period in my life. I went through suicidal ideation. I have dealt with anxiety issues my entire life. And I sort of course corrected by turning into a very arrogant person. That was kind of just a way that I handled things. And I had always been kind of an arrogant person, even as a kid. I was kind of like a know-it-all, kind of like a nerd mixed with a know-it-all. And so that, didn't make me a lot of friends, and it meant that, I got bullied quite a bit when I was younger. And so when things got to a really bad point, I ended up getting into therapy, rediscovering a love for exercise, and ending up choosing sort of the life path that led to where I am today. I had never really been somebody who was really that much into sports. I had primarily been a runner up until that point. I had run the track and cross country teams, but I hadn't really enjoyed it that much, and it had been something that I had never been particularly good at. And, basically I got into lifting weights for the first time, and I was like, oh, I actually really enjoy this. This feels really cool. This feels really empowering. And so, basically that led to eventually deciding that I wanted to become a personal trainer so that I could try and help other people to have that same sort of empowering experience with fitness that I had, where I just, it just completely turned my life around and made everything way better for me. But again, I kind of overshot things. I became more arrogant. I became kind of more self-obsessed. I became obsessed with self-improvement. And I also kind of became somebody who was very judgmental of other people, particularly because I, basically couldn't relate to them, since everything that mattered to me was self-improvement, and that was basically all that I ever really thought about. It made me, it made it very hard to relate to other people who obviously had very different motivations and goals in their life. And so I would try and judge people just based on very arbitrary, how, I thought that they should be spending their time and things like that. And, I realized that I kind of ruined a lot of relationships that way. I had a lot of friendships, I had a lot of romantic relationships that I ruined because I was trying to hold people to a standard that, didn't really make any sense and was not really, a rational one. It was just kind of a thing that I had sort of brought up in my head. I had sort of imagined this sort of fantasy world in which I lived, and I had always tried to force myself to adhere to it and try to force myself to live up to it. And I kind of just hoped and expected that the rest of the world around me would kind of follow the same routine or the same path. It really took me quite a long time to recover from that phase, and in many ways it's still ongoing. It's a lifetime project of trying to be a better person, trying to kind of overcome the mistakes that I made when I was younger and learn to soften myself and learn to, correct my issues. I had to learn to grow up very significantly in order to be a parent to two wonderful kids. I had to learn to grow up very significantly in order to be an effective coach to all of my clients, learning, a lot more empathy, a lot more, basically just relating to other people, and a lot less, selfishness that was kind of very natural to me, just the way I was growing up. I got into the fitness industry again to kind of try and help people experience the same empowerment that I had via fitness, but I found that there were times that I potentially ruined client relationships because I simply, kind of tried to hold people to a standard, or was too arrogant about things, or, didn't really take the time to really try and understand other people's positions and circumstances like I should have. So obviously the stereotypical concept of the himbo is somebody who is big and buff, but very stupid, very kind, very well-meaning. And that is kind of something that I have learned to embrace as an antidote to the person that I used to be. I had to learn to admit that no matter how smart I am, obviously, I am certainly not the smartest person in the world. There will always be people smarter and more knowledgeable than me, especially on topics that they have put a lot more time invested into than I could ever possibly do. Everybody has limitations. Everybody has a specific circumstance that they are coming from when they are coming to the table. And that really, really shapes lives in ways that a lot of people don't really want to admit or understand. I came to, research and understand the limits of just human talent and rationality, and how at the end of the day, we are all just kind of irrational little silly monkeys, and we all have our little things that we like, and we love our little treats, and we don't always act rationally, and that just is what it is. There are very real limits to what human beings can accomplish, because we are not all perfect automatons. In many ways, I had to learn to push myself to be better by taking things away, by learning to do less, by learning to sort of focus more, take away the things that weren't going to be important, and just be simpler and more focused, as opposed to being super broad and trying to do everything all at once and just stressing myself out and sort of stressing out the people around me in the process. It has been about learning to live a simpler, more blissful, more himboified life. The Himbo Chef series, for example, is about embracing the fact that I simply do not know much about cooking. I went most of my life not knowing basically anything about cooking. My parents, bless them, they certainly, they can cook pretty well, but they are not what people would consider, fine chefs or anything like that. They are people who have, very specific, recipes that they follow, and, things that they've learned over the years, but they are not necessarily, I would say, particularly adventurous, and they are not necessarily people who dig into fine cuisine. And so, growing up, I didn't really have much of a sense of food as a pleasure thing. It was something where I mostly just ate food, just for fuel, for the sake of, it was like, oh, like whatever tastes good. And I didn't really have a lot of exposure to a lot of different kinds of cuisine. And so, Himbo Chef is about embracing the fact that I don't know much about cooking, embracing the fact that I'm pretty bad at it, and, really trying out a new skill and, sort of documenting that process for everybody to see. I've had a lot of fun. I've learned a lot in the process. It's really opened up my eyes to just basically all the stuff that there is out there that I don't know about, and just didn't know that I didn't know about, all the unknown unknowns that were waiting out there that are, way more exciting than I could have ever expected. Food has been, sort of an important hobby for my wife as well. She has always loved fine cooking, and so it has been a way for us to bond. It has been a way for us to relate to each other and spend more time together, and I certainly appreciate that as well. I don't know if there's any sort of moral to the story here. I know that it sounds a little silly, but to me, the title, the badge of Himbo is, basically a very honorable one, and one that I really appreciate and that I wear with pride. It's about being a bit less serious, about being willing to poke fun at myself and how serious I used to be. It's about finding more joy in the little things. It is about finding joy in being bad at things and deciding to practice and learn to get better. I used to be so obsessed with self-improvement, and certainly in many ways I still am, but at the same time I have learned to soften that, and again, I just want to live a simpler, happier life and be able to embrace my flaws. So that is all for this week's video. I hope that you liked it. I hope that this was useful for you. Don't hesitate to smash that like button, smash the subscribe button, the notification bell. Don't hesitate to comment down below. Let me know what you would like to see in future videos. Let me know if you've got some important story from your own Himbo journey. I will talk to you all next week. Have a good one.